I'm ready, drive on the road in my car, and I have some story to you. Take a seat, fasten your seatbelts, buckle up, and let's begin. I got up from the table, looked at Chaz, and my mind seemed to come out of the fog. Damn, he was good looking. Damn, but I thought, why the fuck do I want to do this? With that thought in mind, I followed my friends and the guys to the door. Then I stopped. I had no idea that I was on the verge of divorce. No matter what I did, I was close to divorce. But the choice was whether my marriage would end in war or amicably. I thought about my life and my marriage. Was I happy? My husband, Zach, was a good husband, except for some important nuances. He didn't hit me, and he wasn't a drunk. He was a reliable person at work, and his employer provided health insurance, which was quite profitable for me and our daughter. As for his time, Zach's free time was pretty much just for Zach. He ignored me and our daughter. As a wonderful bonus, he has gained almost 30 kilograms since we got married. While I weighed only a couple of kilograms more than at our wedding. And I'll tell you, it was a lot of work. That's pretty decent for a 36-year-old woman who gave birth to a daughter. From April to October, Zach came home every night and turned on 2 TVs with baseball, games, and then connected 3 more broadcasts on the monitors of his 3-screen gaming computer. Last week I cooked his favorite dish, chicken carbonara, which he took from the kitchen table, and then went to his home office to devour under a baseball game, while my daughter and I ate at the dining table in the kitchen. Our 12-year-old daughter Emily just looked at me and rolled her eyes. If he wasn't watching 5 baseball games at the same time, he was playing Counter-Strike, while shouting into the microphone on his computer. And he also wonders where our daughter picked up swearing. His speech wasn't any better when he was yelling at baseball players who couldn't exactly hear him rant. The NFL season wasn't much better. He could have given me some time after the Super Bowl before spring training, but that was the end of it. Intimacy was a 2-minute workout and sleep. I know you've read that all husbands are saints. Mine certainly wasn't like that. I'd be a saint if I pretended to enjoy his quick closeness. I'm not a saint. He didn't make the slightest effort, and I became his mirror image. I was bored, and yes, he really didn't listen to me when I told him about his classes, which annoyed me. After I bluntly told him 100 times that watching sports and playing on the computer didn't help make his wife happy, I gave up. Sue me. I've tried 100 times, and no, I'm not suggesting that he should read my mind. I told him exactly what I needed from him. He just ignored me. Let's get back to the present. I froze, then stopped, and Brittany asked me, "What happened? Come on. The guys are waiting." I shook my head. "I can't." Brittany looked at me in surprise. "Of course you can." Brittany turned to Madison and said, "Ask the guys to wait. I'll talk to her." Madison left, and Brittany tried to talk me into it. I was adamant. My stupid wedding vows. Damn it. I had them in mind, even though Zach wasn't making any more effort to do so. 5 minutes later, Brittany shook her head, sighed, and said, "Your loss. Chaz is a miracle, and you're missing him." I sighed. Chaz really was a stud. Yes, intimacy with Chaz would be 1,000,000,000 times better than with my fat bum husband. But for some reason, I didn't let Chaz touch me, even though I was out of Zach's side, at the club while my husband was watching baseball. Rejecting everyone else. I did what I could, and he didn't help me in any way. Why the hell do I care about my vows? Go without me. Brittany frowned, and then finally gave up and left. Half an hour later, when I got home at 10, Zach, as always, was sitting in front of the TV watching baseball. I rolled my eyes and mocked shock at the fact that he was sitting on his ass and staring at the screen. Zach was surprised to see me and asked, "What are you doing at home?" His voice was almost accusatory. I sighed and replied, "I live here." I went to the kitchen, brewed chamomile tea, and went to bed half an hour later. Saturday. The next day, the feces got onto a rotating air circulation device. I woke up to the fact that my phone on the bedside table was beeping SMS messages more or less continuously. I picked up my phone and focused on the screen after about the 8th beep. Wait, not the 8th, but the 48th message. Wow, I slept like a log last night. Some interesting points. Where is Will? Will came home at 3 o'clock. He was angry and didn't want to talk to me. Matt handed me the divorce papers, which he printed out from the website. He had a private investigator. He accused me of cheating. Laura, was Zach at home when you got back? Laura, was Zach at home? Laura, did Zach say anything to you last night? Laura, answer me. Yes, I'm Laura, and I missed quite a few dramatic events last night. I texted them back that Zach was surprised that I got home early and nothing else interesting was happening. Needless to say, things weren't going well for Brittany and Madison. I tried to sympathize with them in some way, but if I could resist trying to satisfy Chaz, then why couldn't they? Perhaps it was caused by some resentment. I was married to a man who didn't put any effort into our marriage, while Will was running, and Matt was also into sports. Their husbands paid more attention to them in a week than they did to me in a year. If I could keep my legs closed, why couldn't they? The story of the private investigator was puzzling, but then it occurred to me that maybe I was under surveillance too. Shit, that's why Zach seemed surprised by my early return home. He expected me to cheat on him. Last night was a trap and I didn't fall into it. I looked at Zach, who was watching me with interest as I read. He asked with feigned innocence, "Is there anything interesting?" I rolled my eyes. "So that's why you were so sarcastic last night." He nodded. "I was sure you were going out." I looked at him reproachfully. "I've never cheated on you." He frowned and grumbled. "Maybe, but you were definitely flirting with this guy." I nodded, and I didn't let him do anything I couldn't do in your presence. He nodded. "Well, yes, I got the report." I looked at him sourly. He probably forgot that when his obnoxious, slippery asshole boss sends Zach to get some paperwork, he directly offered me intimacy at his company's Christmas party. Unlike the fool, Shez conducted a rather convincing and smooth seduction, fortunately, without a photo of a male organ. Unlike his sneaky boss. Yes, I showed Zach the photos after I got them. The hardest part was telling off his boss and doing it so that Zach wouldn't get fired. The expressions, little sausage and creepy asshole, were running through my head at the time, but I didn't voice them out so that Zach could keep his job. Now I ignored his next barb. There is no need to raise the volume in this fun morning conversation. He paused, then looked at me with a fair amount of self-satisfaction. "Your girlfriends deserve a divorce for their little antics." 25-year-old sellers of fitness products from Cincinnati. Really? I shrugged my shoulders. I didn't do anything wrong. He grimaced, paused, then said, "Yes, I know, but your friends definitely did it. But you've been thinking about it." I nodded cautiously. "Yes, and you?" I thought about the girl with the big boobs at the reception, whom he was constantly flirting with. "Yes, I've heard about it." It was also hard not to notice how she rolled her eyes when I came to work for him. I stopped and said, "I could list a lot of things too. Let's just forget about it." He looked at me and gave me a little push. "You were going to go with him." I nodded. "Yes, but for some stupid reason I just couldn't finish it. In fact, I've been going over my wedding vows to you in my head. I didn't even let this guy touch me in a way that you could object to. At your company's Christmas party, when you want to get the paperwork, your asshole boss tried to grab my chest, but I pushed him away. I wanted to slap his smug face and pour wine in his face. Don't thank me, by the way, or I could slap him in the face and then knee him in the balls. But I figured you'd rather stay at work." He knew I was right, but he got mad. He sighed loudly and admitted, "Well then, in the end, you didn't cheat." I thought it had been ages since I'd had satisfaction, and I was pretty damn sure Chaz could have given it to me more than once. It's a good thing I didn't say it out loud. There was a tense silence, then he chuckled slightly, and then he gave a fake grunt. Thanks. It kind of makes life easier. I don't know. He turned down the volume, and I did the same and asked, what are we going to do next? He thought for a moment and said, it just doesn't work anymore. I nodded. He continued, I could list a lot of things. I think you could make your own list. He stood up, rubbed his temples, and said, I just need to leave for a few hours. I won't do anything stupid. I nodded again, and he took his keys and left. 2 hours later, he came back and said, I was in the sports bar watching the game and thinking a truce. A truce. He took out his phone and showed me a page with the divorce laws in our state. It amazed me. We were going to get divorced. Actually, I didn't mind. I sighed and said, it's probably for the best, isn't it? He nodded, chuckled slightly, and replied, I've planned everything. After you cheated on me, I was going to publicly blow you up. I was going to tell everyone and send you the divorce papers for work. I was going to send the photos to your parents. Brittany's husband had a private investigator, and he was following her and you all the time. You've ruined my grand plans. Brittany, by the way, has been cheating with a colleague for at least a month. Yesterday's guys were a completely different group. I was stunned. What? He looked at me as if reading my mind and was surprised. Damn it. You didn't know? It's amazing. You really didn't know. I shook my head. We're not that close. Brittany is closer to Madison. He laughed. All my grand plans to burn you down went to waste, and you never knew about Brittany. I shrugged and replied with a fair amount of sarcasm. I'm sorry I didn't forget my vows. He laughed again. Actually, thank you for remembering them. To be honest, I don't even want to try to save this shitty marriage. I could list a dozen things and you would answer me with the same dozen, if not more. Do you just want to give up quarrels and get a divorce with the least loss? I nodded. I agree. There's nothing you can do to make me want to stay married to you. He stuck his tongue out at me and said, oh my God. I gave him the middle finger and replied, you idiot. We laughed. To be honest, it was the first time in ages that I really smiled at him. The tension eased, a clearer version to his very presence. She's gone. My blood pressure dropped, and for the first time in forever, I was at peace with myself. He looked at me and snorted. Do you want to have dinner? I snapped back. Are you paying, asshole? He laughed. Yes, the jerk pays. Our daughter was out with her friends until 7 that evening, and Zach would never have missed a baseball game. It was early enough to have dinner and be back on time. We went to a fancy pizzeria. Caverity's is a $25 pizza, and it's worth every cent. We sat quietly and figured out how to end our marriage. The irony of fate is that the truce has become an official peace treaty, literally written on a paper napkin. We swapped our ridiculous house for 2 3-bedroom apartments at different ends of the same apartment complex. It's working. Our daughter sees us both almost every day, and it's simple. Works. The attention subsided. We both invited her to a celebratory dinner. I dare say that we have friendly relations. During our negotiations, I got him to agree to spend more time with our daughter. 6 months later, we officially divorced. We had a mutual lawyer who didn't do much except file paperwork and appear in court. We have agreed on the division of our property. Heck, the biggest fight was over the music collection, and in the end, he handed me an iTunes gift card for $250 so I could listen to music on my phone, which was fine with me since I hang out on my phone more than he does. He liked CDs and he had a big, powerful gaming computer. Sigh, that's another thing he was wasting his time on, ignoring me. The judge looked at us, and I swear he almost smiled. We were parents who tried to make the divorce and division of property as reasonable as possible for our daughter. He really liked that we sold the house and we already had our own apartments, which were less than 300 meters from each other. Our daughter could easily walk to any of our homes. He carefully worked out the custody issues for Emily, but the money was not included in the section. Actually, I earn a little more than he does, but why should we fight over less than $100? The funny thing is that my girlfriend's divorces were a year of quarrels in hell, whereas mine was simple boring. Brittany had the worst time of all. At work, she was handed the divorce papers, accompanied by the song Hound Dog in front of her colleagues. The judge was not amused. Professional advice: don't anger the judges. He barely escaped real punishment, and the judge told him to stop all this. Okay, the story of the hound dog was pretty funny. Brittany's ex managed to avoid that bullet, and she didn't lose her job. Revenge is a dish that is best served cold until you have to pay real money to enjoy it. Divorce is chess, not checkers. He posted photos on her Facebook of her going into her boyfriend's apartment to cheat. He sent the investigation report along with the photos to her parents. She got what she deserved. She resisted. He resisted in response. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Meanwhile, during the divorce, I had lunch with Zach several times to discuss some issues concerning our daughter, and I'm not afraid to say that I liked it. Madison's parents found out about the cheating from her husband, and he told several of his friends about it but left her job alone. Professional advice: do not interfere with the work of your future ex, as this may affect the child support payments or spouse payments. Her husband played out the divorce with a strategy and left more or less normally. We have set a schedule of visits for our daughter. He almost always has days off on Mondays and Fridays, and I have Saturdays and Sundays. But considering his schedule as a store manager at Higgins Home Emporium, it works, since these are his 2 hardest working days. I take care of our daughter more during his big retail season, from Black Friday to Christmas Eve, and he gets her more during tax season because I work as an accountant. We divided the rest of the days and agreed to split in half all the additional expenses for our daughter, and it worked. We both sleep better because of the stress in our lives. I don't need to let a fat man roll on top of me, rock for 2 minutes, and go to bed. And he doesn't satisfy a dead fish that doesn't want to participate in 2 minutes of wallowing. This fat man like a walrus on the shore. So yes, I'm divorced, and so is life. It's not that bad. A year later, I met Michael, a guy who hates professional sports but loves hiking just as much as I do, and we get along great. We got married a year after we met. Zach met Katie, who was obsessed with baseball, and life went well for both of us. Katie shoots Counter-Strike better than he does, and he's learned to always be on her team, otherwise she'll kick his ass every time. Yes, they got married around the same time as Michael and me. Neither of us attended the other wedding, but I was happy to drive and pick up our daughter before and after. Zach did the same thing at my wedding. The only question is, which genie fulfilled Zach's desire to find the only woman obsessed with professional baseball, who also has the skills of a killer in Counter-Strike? I don't go to bachelorette parties because Michael throws a lot of parties for us and our friends. He doesn't know how to dance, but he lets me dance once every couple of months. I really enjoy sitting with my boyfriend in an ice bar, listening to live music and enjoying his company. At the very beginning, I told Michael exactly what I needed from him, and it shocked him. That's exactly what he always does. Needless to say, there is no walrus intimacy, and yes, I try to keep him properly exhausted. Intimacy is enjoyable again. I know it's even more shocking. A little effort to start the engine, and voila, I'll make sure he gets what he wants because he returns the favor. This summer, I'm taking our daughter to England to go hiking along the southwest coast. 2 weeks later, my ex-husband will take her with him to Florida for a week of beach vacations and theme parks. Last year, we celebrated Thanksgiving at my house. My turkey with stuffing, made according to my grandmother's recipe, was great. Zach and Katie were my guests, and our daughter had dinner with us and our spouses. Michael and I went to Zach's for Christmas, and we were their guests. I even gave Zach and Katie Counter-Strike baseball caps. Zach bought Michael and me t-shirts with the inscription, "The North Face, Court North Slope, is an American company specializing in the production of high-quality, high-tech sports, mountain clothing, and travel equipment." Does it annoy me that Zach lost weight and got decently pumped up for Katie, but not for me? Yes, but I'm not going to violate the peace treaty that we have because of this. I think we're doing a lot of good things by showing our daughter examples of how to be responsible and reasonable adults. Besides, Katie is a damn good cook, and I'm looking forward to Easter because she says her Easter ham is amazing. Considering how great her Christmas filet mignon wrapped in bacon was, I believe her. And a couple of extra pounds is not so scary. Be careful on the road. See you soon.